Hello, sir. Welcome to Technology Times TV. For the benefit of our audience, please introduce yourself.
Well, my name is simply Osa Director. I'm a journalist and a lawyer. I was a journalist with Child Magazine until we founded our own magazine, Insider Weekly, where I was editor-in-chief for 8 years. Currently, I'm a practicing lawyer in Lagos.
Can you provide an overview of the state of the telecommunications industry in Nigeria?
Well, personally, nothing is so good that it cannot be better. The truth is that looking at where we are coming from, you will see that we have taken a lot of giant strides in the past. I imagine those days when we were young, in my father's house, when we only had the monopoly by Nitel, the sole provider of telecommunication services. Your phone line will go off, you go to Nitel office for days pleading with them, having to induce them, and then you see them come with their funny ladders, to be changing the wires from different angles. Those were a very, very difficult and primitive era. A situation where you won't find people coming to your house to queue up to make phone calls or receive phone calls, and in the process they are divulging their secrets and things like that. So when we look at we coming from that period to where we are now, where we have a mobile telephony, where even our grandparents in the villages have access to telephone, you will say that we've made some giant strides. But like I said earlier, nothing is so good that it cannot be better. There is room for tremendous improvement.
What prompted you to file this lawsuit against MTN, and why do you believe its board composition amounts to industry capture?
Let me not claim originality of the idea. Someone called me to intimate me of what he sees as a lopsided manner of the composition of MTN board. The person lives abroad and said that, look, this thing can't take place in the United States or take place in the United Kingdom. Besides, I should just take a look at it if I can sue them, because he knows that I'm also somebody who is interested in civil and human rights activism. My background as a journalist and as a lawyer and as a proud product of the Ganifa Wemi School of Thought. So I looked at the issues and I read everything. I was actually very incensed. I was very, very angry, deeply angry when I read through all the materials, and I discovered that some NGO had written in the past and commented on the nature of composition of MTN board, that it will amount to industry capturing a section or a sector of the industry as the telecommunication sector. And I see a lot of apparent intentionality and deliberateness on the part of MTN or any company whatsoever, to stack its board with people with relevant industry regulatory experience. I felt that that would create undue dominance and influence peddling in the industry, to the extent that it will be a disadvantage to other competitors. It doesn't create room for competition, especially for local competitors. Indigenous industries that we want to compete in that sector. So I feel very, very angry, and that's why I decided to go to court, because the only way I can ventilate my anger is not by resorting to self-help, but by using the instrumentality of the law. So that's why I went to the Federal High Court and filed a suit against MTN Nigeria.
You just explained that MTN's board composition gives it unfair advantage over its competitors. Can you point to specific instances where this has led to anti-competitive behavior?
I think the matter is now sub judice. So there's a limit to which I can comment on that. I can only state the facts as it is on the processes that I filed at the Federal High Court, Lagos. My prayer before my lordship is that you can't have a situation where you appoint Engineer Ernest Ndukwe, the pioneer chairman of National Communication Commission, which was the licensor and chief regulator of MTN. He was the chairman, executive vice chairman of that division, pioneer executive vice chairman, which licensed MTN and regulated MTN for the 8 years or so that he was executive vice chairman. Now he's now the chairman of MTN. I felt my lordship should look at that I think it's an unfair advantage, in the sense that if I don't have the scientific data, but I want to assume that the employees in NCC today, up to 60% of them were employed by Ndukwe, and most of them will be loyal to him, whether you like it or not, And then you have a situation where I'm also praying my lordship to consider the fact that you are appointing the pioneer chief executive of Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mrs. Ifweku Omegui Okaro, as a director of MTN. And if you take your mind back, recently in 2023, the Lagos division of the Tax Appeal Tribunal found MTN guilty of tax evasion to the tune of $72.5 billion US, and the period the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation inquired into or looked into in terms of tax payment by MTN was between 2007 and 2017, which is inclusive of the term that Ifweku Omegui served as chief executive of FIROS. And I mean, in civilized and decent line, the security agencies, the anti-corruption agencies like EFCC, ICPC, they should call Ifweku Omegui to question. I mean, what happened? I mean, about 4 years after this year, some of these, part of this gargantuan amount of $2 million were not paid, either as VAT or as withholding tax, and now you are suddenly a non-executive director of MTN. So I am also asking my lordship to look at that, And thirdly, the pioneer minister of communication, Omobola Johnson, is also a director of MTN. And the Minister of Communication is the supervisory ministry that perform oversight function over and upon MTN. So she's also a director. Then thirdly, you find Mohammed K. Ahmad, the pioneer director general of National Pension Commission, also a director of MTN. You see, so like I said, there is apparent intentionality and deliberateness on the part of MTN. In my view, it is left for the court to agree with me or not, that to be appointing people with a regulatory experience, into their board. And I think that, in my own view too, and opinion, would give them undue advantage. It is like identify all their corporate pains and getting relevant and potent analgesics to relieve those pain. That's what that's the way I look at it. So for that, I decided that look, this is what putting before His Lordship to decide whether my prayers on the merit can be answered. I mean, they should look at my process on the merit and see whether there's merit in it or otherwise. And I'm ready to subject myself to the majesty of the judicial decision of my Lordship and the Federal High Court.
Critics have accused MTN of demanding dollar payments from local businesses, making it a disadvantage to local telecom companies. What do you have to say about this? Yes, I've heard that. I mean, it's an open secret that MTN demand for dollars, when they are doing contracts with local contractors and all the rest. But I think that is very insulting. It's the kind of country we live in, and we have made our country look like a huge joke, like a banana republic. That's a gross violation of the CBN Act, that you should not demand foreign currency for local jobs, jobs that are denominated in naira and you don't want to be paid. Even some landlords in highbrow areas like Ikoyi and Victoria Island and the so-called Lekki and what have you, they demand for dollars. Where are the
enforcing agencies that are supposed to enforce a situation where companies don't demand for dollars. I mean, no one can tell me that the EFCC, the ICPC, the SFIU, and other regulatory agencies and security agencies are not aware of these unwholesome and criminal practices, I would say, and yet nobody has been arrested, nobody has been tried. So is it because some of these companies can peddle influence around? Is that why they are kind of immune from being subjected to the scrutiny? So these are the questions we want to ask ourselves. I think our leaders should just play serious and take ourselves seriously sometimes, so that we don't look like a joke for the international community. And I feel very, very angry, because you find out that you come to a country where the national currency is in naira, where we are making millions and billions of money, but you are assuming and saying blatantly to our faces that your currency is so dirty, is so worthless, that I cannot accept it. I will accept dollar. But yet you can fleece our people of their resources through the services you provide. I think that is something the government should seriously look into. I mean, we are not saying that we should discourage foreign direct investment, but things should be done according to the law. You can't go to some of the parent country of these companies and do all this kind of practice. You can't even try it.
Please comment on the NCC approved 50% telecom tariff hike. Do you believe the increase is justified?
You see, let me just say that, looking at the Nigeria generally, the state of our economy, the conditions of our people, I think this is not the right time, it's not the appropriate time to start increasing services that every Tom, Dick and Harry, almost the high, the low, and whatever uses, things you cannot do without, things like foodstuff, things like medicine, and telephony, So on that ground alone, morally, I object to the approval of the increment by NCC, and I have spoken to some industry experts, in the area of telecommunication. Most of them have explained to me that this is not the right time, and it is not financially defensible for NCC to approve price increment, because of the fact that, looking at the level of technological improvement in telephony and all that prices are going down in civilized clime. Why is it going up here? But you find the telecommunication telling you, oh, we buy this in dollars, we do this in this, and we do this in dollars, and the price must go up. You see, when they make such argument, it is buffeted with what I call scientific and mathematical inexactitude, because you are not giving us the true picture. You are not paying your staff in dollars. Your labor hand is not done in dollars. Some of the services and contracts you do are not done in dollars. So why are you not denominating your entire services in dollars? Give us the impression, in America they pay $6 per minute or whatever, or $100 per minute, and here we are just paying. They have increased it to about 13 kobo, 13 point something kobo. Let's just say around, say 14 kobo, whatever. And so because of that, telephone is very cheap. No, you are not giving us the true picture. Why are you deceiving? So I think I object to the approval by NCC to increase tariff.
Beyond this lawsuit, what broader reforms do you think are needed in Nigeria's telecom industry to promote fair competition and to avoid regulatory capture?
Yeah, I believe that the regulatory authorities should be alive to their responsibility. For example, I'm speaking personally, because I said I don't, because the matter is before the court, I don't want to comment on the merit of the case. I'll just state the facts as I put it before my lordship. That before it got to this extent, SCC should have waded in. Now look at the other telecommunication company. How many of such people. I mean, someone has been became NCC executive vice chairman after Nigerian has retired. Is he a member of the board of any telecommunication company? Several people have retired as executive, chief executive of RRS, and they members of any of the telecommunication company. People have retired after Mohammed K. Ahmad as DG of pension. You know, some people have also retired as ministers of communication. You know, so you see, I don't like a situation where we as lawyers try to play legalese. The law says so. Morality elevates the law. Morality complements the law. There are things that can happen on moral ground. You stand shoulder and above the law and say, for the sake of morality, I'm not doing this. I'll give you an instance. There was a time during President Yaradua, he was the first Nigerian governor to declare his asset publicly. I remember in 1999, may God bless his soul, he was my personal friend. I went to Katsina and spent 4 days with him and even interviewed him as governor then of Katsina, to commend him for having the guts, because he was of the leftist, he was a leftist. That is pragmatizing those things even in the office. So when he became president, he also declared his asset publicly. So the onus was now on Jonathan, who was his vice president, to declare his asset publicly. There was pressure on Jonathan, and people were saying, oh no, he has done the constitutional thing, he has declared his asset before the Code of Conduct Bureau. I cannot forget that press release that was not released by the office of Jonathan. He said, I have decided to declare my asset publicly, not because I have not done so constitutionally, but because of the fact that there's a moral compulsion on my part that since my boss has declared asset publicly, I should also do mine. So there are times we rise above share legalese and do things. Looking at the composition of the board of MTN, no, you don't need a soothsayer to show to understand that there's some intentionality. So I want a situation where the NCC should be alive to its responsibility. The regulatory authorities should be alive to their responsibility. If there are practical evidence before EFCC, SFIU, and even CBN that MTN or any other telecommunication company is demanding for dollars, they should be prosecuted for God's sake. And you cannot tell me that there are no evidence. A lot of people are speaking on this matter, but our regulatory agents are also part of the captive elements, and I think they should extricate themselves from that situation so that the industry can be better. And I want a situation where the NCC must constantly and regularly have what you call this stakeholders forum. They can do it across the 6 geopolitical zone every year, so which means every 2 months. First 2 months, maybe they are northeast, the next 2 months they are northwest, something like that, so that they can get the feelers of the people, because this is a service that every Nigerian, all the young, rich or poor, utilizes. So because of that, you need to ensure that everyone is treated fairly.
Moving back to the subject of the tariff hikes, like you've said that it is not really the right time. The NLC has mentioned that it is insensitive. How do you think the government should balance industry sustainability with consumer protection?
For example, the industry cannot survive when the consumer is dead. The consumer needs to be alive, to be able to patronize you. So you can't choke them out of existence and then begin to say you are talking of industry survival. I just told you now that, look, these corporate people, some of them are corporate sharks, they rely on every occurrence in society to want to increase their tariff, to want to increase their profit, even if it is not affecting them negatively. For the fact now that, prices of things are up in Nigeria, price of foodstuff and the rest. You see a woman who is frying akara by the side of the house, who probably does not have anything to do with foreign content, will tell you, oh, the prices of dollars are going up. Will she tell you that? Will you believe her? So I want to believe that most of this, I really don't want to be ideologically strict here, but you see, capitalism, especially crude capitalism as we operate in Nigeria, is something that is extremely exploitative. You know, the bottom line is they prefer the profit race to the human race. So at the end of the day, the always one is their number one priority is profit, number two priority is profit, number three priority is profit. So I'm saying that you cannot give me statistical evidence to show that the level of increase we're asking for in the telecommunication industry, which is 50%, is the way and manner the amount of rendering the service has also increased, like 50% increment. You know, they just capitalize on the situation and the environment in Nigeria to say, oh, we also need to increase. Have they asked MTN and the rest whether they have increased the salary of their staff within this last 1 year? So I mean, let's be fair. What is fair is fair.
Moving back to your case with MTN, do you think that this suit would set a legal precedent for other board appointments across other companies?
Well, by the special grace of God, like I front-loaded in my process, I was lucky to have also done a master's degree in corporate governance from Leeds Metropolitan University in the United Kingdom. So at least I know one or two things about corporate governance. So that is also one of the reasons I felt, okay, let's test the law, because that is what Gani taught us. You know, people sit down, especially those of us who belong to a school of thought, oh, if chief was alive, chief is gone, it's a natural process. He has passed on the baton to some other people. So let those of us who are alive, you know, now the younger generation, take up this challenge. So I have gone to court, like Gani would tell you, using the instrumentality of the law to fight for justice, fairness, and equity. I may not win the case, but I have succeeded. I have succeeded in bringing that issue to the court of public opinion. And to that extent, there is no way it will not dovetail or impact on appointment of board members in the telecommunication industry, win or lose. But I pray that my case should be held on its merit and will abide by whatever decision His Lordship decides.
If the court rules in favor of your case and MTN's board is dissolved, what kind of board structure would you recommend to ensure fairness?
And well, it will depend on the kind of judgment that is given, you know. So they will have to, if it is not in their favor, then they have to adhere strictly to the recommendation made in the judgment of the court. So it is not in my position to tell them what to do. I'm not a board member of MTN. So, but they should play by the rules. The code of conduct is there, the constitution is there, karma is there, Company and Allied Matters Act. So they should follow all the rules in the book.
What outcome are you hoping for with your case against MTN? And if the court rules against you, what will be your next step?
We'll cross the river when we get to the bridge.
All right. Is there anything we might have left out during the course of this interview that you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, the thing is just that we should, as Nigerians, believe that and appreciate the fact that Nigeria is a great country, but we cannot be potentially great for 60 years. When are we going to fulfill that our potential? And that fulfilling our potential rests with every one of us. Like I also tell my colleagues, those of us who were tutored by Chief Gani Fawemi, or who believe in Chief Gani Fawemi's philosophy, we should rise up, you know. Don't just leave everything for only Femi Falana or my good friend, the young SCN Ebu Adeguruwa, you know. I mean, there are a lot of brilliant lawyers around. It's not just enough to be a brilliant lawyer. What impact are you making on society and on people? What are you contributing to develop the law? I remember when I was in the law school, you know, every case, you see, Gani Fawemi against the state. IGP against Gani Fawemi. You know, so I got excited. This is a human being who has, contributed to developing the law, to expanding the frontiers of our jurisprudence. You know, he was the first person to ensure in criminal prosecution that a private individual, that you can have a private prosecutor to prosecute a criminal case, because crime is supposed to be prosecuted by the state. But when they refused in case of Delegiwa and Alilu Akilu, you know, when Gani went to court, he got out of Supreme Court and they made the decision that, look, there can be a private prosecutor if and when the individual has sought the permission of the Attorney General and he refuses, you know, that you can privately prosecute, you know. So that is something that has developed the law today. One area, you know, you imagine the case of registration of political parties when Gani Fawemi and Abdulkadir Balabi Musa and others went to court. That is when they told INEC, you don't have the power to register parties. Parties evolve on their own. So I'm appealing to young, brilliant lawyers, you know, who are coming that, look, impact on society is not a matter of just filling your bank account, you know. So we should encourage and support, you know, those who are already in the fray doing that. Femi Falana, Ebun, Adeguruwa, Mahmoud Aminu, this young man, Inibehe, you know. So, I mean, a lot of them have Mustafa a lot of names, but I mean, let those young and bright ones continue to expand the frontiers of the law.
Thank you very much for joining us today on Technology Times TV.